Hello, my name is Lorie Dancy. I am the Senior Vice President of Wellness for Solvera Living, as well as for Solutions Advisors Group. I have the pleasure of having Dr. Roger Landry here with us today. And Dr. Roger Landry, he is the author of the award-winning book, Live Long, Die Short. He is the president of Masterpiece Living. He is a preventative medicine physician, an Air Force flight surgeon, and so much more. So welcome, Dr. Landry. Thank you so much for taking this time to be with us today. And I would love for you to elaborate even more on your background, to share with us, and tell us a little bit about how you first got into medicine and what prompted you to write your book, Live Long, Die Short.
Well, thanks, Lorie. It's an honor to be with you. I very much appreciate it. And what would I tag on to all of that? I'm a point in my life where I'd like to say, and he's a hell of a nice guy. And if I could add that to my resume, then I'm happy. No, I have had a career in medicine that probably began when I was witness to a very traumatic motor vehicle accident, and I wasn't trained at the time. I was just in high school. And felt so helpless there, and that kind of got me thinking that I'd like to be able to know what to do and to respond and to help people. I also was burdened. I'll say burdened, but it's joking. I was blessed with parents who had a great sense of the greater good, having gone through things like the Depression and World War II, and they had a great feeling for the greater good. I went to high school and eventually college, where with Jesuits, and they really beat you up about the greater good and contributing and all of those things. So it resonated very well, and so that got me into medicine. I wanted to be a cardiologist, but Vietnam was going on, and so I volunteered. Actually, I probably could have gotten out of it, and saw the tail end of that, and just love working with patriots, really, people who had a greater sense of value of their lives, who wanted to do something more than just a job. And, it was a great match for me. And so even though I only had signed up for 2 years, I stayed 23 and ended up at the Surgeon General's office in the Air Force, Surgeon General's office in Washington, and was able to at last, I was in a position to not complain anymore about how things were done. I had to fix it. So it was a great career. And then I was doing preventive medicine in Pennsylvania, and my brother called me about working with him to do Masterpiece Living, to explore this book, this study, a 10-year-long study, and a book, Successful Aging, had just come out. And said, I'd like to explore how we could maybe bring this to reality for everybody so that everyone can age in a better way. And that started like 20 years ago. So here I am. So it's been great. Live Long, Die Short was a book that was intended to piggyback on Dr. Kahn's original book. And he encouraged me to write it. And so when Dr. Kahn encouraged you to do something, I did it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's great. And, when you talk about successful aging, and when I first met you about 5 years ago at the Lyceum for Masterpiece Living, I really learned a lot about what that concept means and how much of a reality that it can be and should be for so many people. And in reading your book, which I did 5 years ago, and I've read some more excerpts from it recently, you definitely talk about how older adults can maximize their unique potential. And I just love hearing that. And, I wanted to hear more from you about that. What does that look like for an older adult to do that? How do they maximize their unique potential?
Well, it's a shame that it seems so foreign to us now. For most of the time we've been on Earth, our societies, hunter-gatherer societies, small towns, we valued older adults. They were the guiders, the consultants, the wisdom holders, and it was only since the Industrial Revolution, when production became the principal the sort of currency of what was valuable, that we began to marginalize our older adults because they couldn't make as many widgets. And that has become reality for us. And so, we have a whole thing about retiring at a certain age and going and play golf or whatever, and, your productivity is done. Well, that's just garbage, because it's like saving gold for 70, 80 years and then just pushing it aside and not using it. This is human capital. So there's two things that have to happen if we're going to do that. First of all, we need to make sure society is aware, and that's what you and Sauveur, what we in Masterpiece Living are attempting to do, to make people aware in the society that there is a treasure trove of wisdom and energy, passion, a desire to help others in older adults. And secondly, oddly enough, it's the older adults themselves, because they have been swallowing a message of ageism their entire lives, whether they knew it or not. That getting older is about decline only, and it's about being on the side of society, marginalized. And we can't continue to do that, as since every fifth person is going to be over 65 here very soon. As a nation, we can't afford to do it, but it's also not a good thing for healthy aging to not have purpose and meaning, and to be respected, and to be part of what's happening, and to have intergenerational contact. Absolutely critical. So we got to fix that, and we're on our way.
Mm-hmm. It's so critical. It absolutely is. And it seems to be a challenge sometimes to change that mindset. But like you said, we're on our way. It's happening little by little. We're seeing people adopt that concept and understanding.
We are indeed. And it's very great to see. But it is an uphill battle to some extent. But I think we're almost at the crest of the hill, actually.
Love that. Thank goodness. So, in reference to that, I know you often speak about, and you talk about this in your book, about not being afraid to try new things, to set goals. How would you recommend someone set goals as they age, so that they don't lose that spark that you referred to? You can lose that spark if you don't.
Yeah, learning new things is not only great for the brain, it's good for our vitality. It keeps us getting out of bed every day, really. The bottom line of it is to do something you love and take small steps toward it. We usually try to do change in big steps, and that's why our New Year's resolutions fail all the time. Never get much past February. But when we have a vision of what we'd like to do, and we take it in small steps, and the small step becomes the goal. Once we achieve that, then we set another small step. Like if you want to run a mile, get out and walk 10 more steps than you usually do. That sort of thing. It seems ridiculous, but that's how we build confidence in ourselves, competence, and we move towards a change that is durable. It's going to stay. If we go on a crash diet and lose weight, we're not going to keep that weight off, because the diets are so austere that you just can't live that way. And the second thing is, it should be something you love. We're used to setting goals that we not necessarily love, but we thought we wanted to achieve for our livelihood, for our career, for our family, to survive, make enough money. And so a lot of times we do things that weren't necessarily something we would have chosen otherwise. But when you set goals a little later in life, they should be something that you love, that moves you, and that you're passionate about. It doesn't have to be grandiose like saving the world, but it can be just raising roses in the garden to make it more beautiful. But having meaning and purpose is absolutely critical. Having goals towards something, and the ones that really work are usually the ones that, as we were talking about before, usually are for the greater good. Help other people, help other living things.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. And because we hear so much about it's always the long shot, or that long-term goal, or I'm even thinking of, like you said, in the beginning of the year, these New Year's resolutions. You go to an organization that helps with that, and they'll say, how much weight do you want to lose in totality? And that could be far off, but it's those small, like you said, those small steps
Absolutely. It's called Kaizen. It's the Japanese approach to change, and it's getting more popular now, just baby steps towards a larger goal. But we Americans, we don't value it. You're not going to go in a bar and say, I took 10 more steps today, you know?
Right. This is true. This is true. Yeah. But it matters.
But it does matter, and that's how we can be successful at change. We just have to be more patient.
Right, right. So given the current situation that we're in right now with COVID-19, here we are in May already of 2020, and we've been dealing with this actively dealing with this for about 10 weeks probably now. How would you say that encouraging people in the best way would look like for those that are now at home? We're physically more still and isolating and physically distancing ourselves from one another. Any advice that you could offer to promote healthy aging for basically all of us, but particularly older adults who are really in that situation and in this situation right now?
Yes. Well, surely. First of all, I have to hats off to all of those who are giving at this time, the healthcare workers, all those essential workers, firefighters, transportation, because their life hasn't changed. It's probably, well, it has, but it's ramped up. And so they don't have the luxury of being alone, seeing what they're going to do. And of course, for those who've lost loved ones or who themselves have been sick, you know, I realize that what we're saying now, it's a little different. We're talking about the majority of people who all of a sudden have had their lives change, and they're at home. They're healthy, but they're at home. So addressing those people, I would say that, you know, the first thing is you have to get your head on right. You know, this is an opportunity. I mean, again, aside from all the pain and suffering, financial or whatever that's there, for a good many of us, this is an opportunity to be able to step out of your life for a minute and reevaluate your values, reevaluate what's important to you. I'd maybe even go as far as to say how I spent my time before this, you know, hours a day, whatever. And then 2, what's valuable to me? What is important to me? What do I want my legacy? What rings my bell? What makes me get out of bed? What gives me meaning and purpose? And see how they match up. More than likely they won't. And this is an opportunity to be able to say, well, I'm not going to let this absolutely historic time go by without an evaluation and without some change. I mean, to go right back to life the way it was, it probably is not going to be the way it was, but to just try and do that, I think that's waste. I see this as a tremendous time to be able to say, okay, a little bit of a reboot for me personally, and I'm going to follow my heart, and I'm going to follow my passions, and as much as I can, you know, of course, we still have requirements, most of us, but older adults, many of them have the luxury of being able to follow their dreams, so to speak. But it's just sad that too many of them say, well, I'm old now, and I'm beyond that, and I can't do that. If, as I said before, if we don't have purpose and meaning in our lives, it's hard to get up out of bed. And when we don't have the zest for life, we don't move, we don't learn, we don't connect with others, all the things that are critically important for us aging in a better way. So I would say, first of all, see it as an opportunity. And then secondly, get very creative about how you continue to move physically. You must move. We're creatures of movement. We don't do well if we don't move regularly. Doesn't have to be running or anything, but get out and move. Inside, move. Secondly, continue to learn new things. Learning new things just stimulates our brains. We can grow new neural pathways, new pathways in our brain, and that keeps our brain functioning well. Thirdly, very important to stay connected. Well, how do you do that when you have to keep physical distancing? Well, those of us who are technically, capable, we should reach out and do that. And those that aren't should learn. And there are online, there are courses, there are people in communities who can help by phone or to help you be able to connect with someone by video conferencing or telephone or cell phone or whatever. So, but keep connected to others. I would recommend reach out to people maybe who dropped out of your lives, who was important to you, and that happens. This might be a good opportunity. And then lastly, to think about your purpose, as I've already mentioned. What is your life about? What do you want it to be about? And if you were to, if COVID were to get you, where would your regrets be? And those regrets are what you should probably focus on so that you won't have those regrets when your time comes.
That's great knowledge and information for us to take away. Thank you so much.
Great questions, Lorie, you know.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate you just taking the time. It's a privilege to talk with you and just to have you join us. And thank you so much for being with us today.
It's my absolute pleasure. And keep doing what you're doing. It's great work.
Thank you. Thank you.